Is checking email consuming your workday and stressing you out? If yes, keep watching. In this video, I am going to give you 5 powerhouse tips to manage your email more effectively. But we're not going to be doing any productivity hacks here, no color coding, no multiple folders. In fact, we're not going to be talking about technology at all because you can find that information pretty much anywhere. Instead, I'm going to be going deeper than that to what is actually going to save you both time and stress when it comes to email. Now, if you are new here, hello, my name is Jen Costanza. I'm a holistic burnout recovery coach, and I work with high achieving women who really want to stop the burnout, stop the overwhelm, the stress, the exhaustion, get rid of all of that, but also not have to give up their job and everything that they have worked so hard for. So, one thing that I have found with a lot of my clients, and maybe this is true for you as well, is that email is really a thorn in their side. When I talk to them, email comes up as a constant problem, like it's consuming their workday. Oftentimes, it's giving them a lot of stress. When they talk about, many of them will talk about, I feel like I'm putting out fires all day long, and where are those fires coming from? They're coming from email. Email is just one of those things that adds a ton of stress to your work and can consume a whole workday if you let it. But I want to let you know that you can control it. Email is one of those things that you can learn to control, and I'm going to show you how in this video. I'm going to give you 5 ways to manage your email more effectively so that you're spending less time on it and you're feeling less stressed by it. So let's get into it. So, the first thing that I want you to learn, or first way I'm going to tell you to manage your email more effectively, is actually not a thing that you have to do, but a way that you need to shift your mind in the way that you're thinking about email. Here's the deal. Your main role at work probably is not to respond to emails, right? If we looked at your job description, it is not email responder. At least if you're, as long as you're not, a secretary, an administrative assistant, or you're working directly in customer service. For most of us, for most of the women that I work with, their main role is not email responder. It's to actually get stuff done. It's to write, to do research, to teach, to, whatever it is their role is, it's not email. And so one thing that I want you to remember, one way I want you to kind of shift your thinking around email is that this is actually one of many tools that I use for communication and to get things done, but it is not my sole reason for existence in the first place. And to that end, one other belief that I want you to shift in your mind is around your availability. A lot of us, or a lot of the women that I work with, tend to find themselves checking email not just between the hours of, like 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., but well after those hours, and even sometimes before 9 a.m. itself, maybe even as early as like 5 a.m. Here's the deal. You don't need to be available all the time. Things aren't going to fall apart when you don't check email at 10 p.m. or if you avoid checking email before 9 a.m. These 2 beliefs, we really need to learn to, what's the word I'm looking for? We really need to get settled with them. We need to make them part of our belief system, that our main role is not checking email, and that we really don't need to be available all the time, that things are going to be okay, that we're not going to miss something. You're good at your job. You're not going to miss something. It's going to be okay. So that is the first thing that I want you to know about email and learning to deal with email more effectively, is that it's not your main role in your work, okay? Second, this is more of a practical tip here, and it's a really, really, really important one, and I'm probably not the first one to say this to you, but please, please, please don't check your email first thing in the morning, okay? I was talking to a friend last week. She told me that she was checking her email literally while she's still in bed. She's like opening up her phone and checking your email. Are you doing that? Or almost as bad, are you getting up and, going to the bathroom and checking your email? Really start to, become aware of when are the times during the day that you're checking your email, and particularly in the morning, when are you first checking your email, okay? And here's why we want to avoid checking our email as, especially in bed, but also just as the first thing that we do. So when it comes to your workday, obviously, for most of us, our main goal is to get as much stuff done as we can with the amount of time that we have. Now, let me ask you this. When it comes to what you're going to get done with your time, would you rather get stuff done for yourself? Would you rather be focusing on your priorities? Or would you rather be tending to someone else's to-do list? Because here's the thing. When you check your email first thing in the morning, especially if you're checking it in bed, what you're doing is putting someone else's to-do list, somebody else's priorities ahead of your own. You already have enough on your plate. You might have big projects ahead of you that need to be completed. You need to ask yourself, you need to give yourself permission to focus on your priorities before you start focusing on somebody else's, or starting working on putting out somebody else's fire or dealing with somebody else's emergencies. You need to figure out what your priorities are. And the second thing I will say about this is, where do you want your best energy to go? Now, I think that we can all agree that, if we were to rate our energy, especially when it comes to work, your mental energy, if we were to rate ourselves on a scale of 1 to 10 throughout the day, most of us have the most energy, would rate ourselves the highest in the first few hours of the day. And we would see that energy, that number start to dip slowly throughout the day, right? So let me ask you this. If you have a big project that's due, if you're working on something that is a priority, that is really important to you, do you want your best energy to go to that project, when you are 10 out of 10? Or do you want your worst energy to go to it? And then the same thing with email. Do you want your best energy to go to email, or do you want to have your best energy go to your priorities? If your best energy is first thing in the morning, as it is for, I would say, 99% of us, then you have to choose to not focus on your email first thing in the morning and put yourself and your priorities first. That is a choice that you can make about email. So, one last thing I will say about this, about checking your email in the morning. Oftentimes, if we are picking up our phone and we're checking our email, usually it's, you pick up your phone, you're not just checking email. Maybe you're also going onto social media, something like that, starting to scroll. And what happens to your mood? Immediately, you're checking your email, you see somebody else's problems. You see a fire that you're going to need to put out today. You see demands coming at you. You get an email from someone, maybe it's your boss or a coworker, and you don't like the tone of it. And it's kind of like giving you that yuck feeling in your stomach. And maybe kind of adjacent to that, you're checking social media and you're seeing something about, that's going on in the news that's also, bad news and giving you that ick feeling. Here's the deal. How do you want to feel for the day? Because when you open up your email first thing, you are essentially letting whatever is coming at you in that inbox dictate how you're going to feel. And if the stuff coming at you in your inbox feels stressful, you're starting out your entire day with stress. You don't have to do that. You have an alternate option. You could be starting out your day focusing on your own priorities and getting something done that feels exciting and meaningful to you, or even if it's not exciting and meaningful, at least it feels like you're making progress on your own work, right? You could be starting out your day on a high note like that. You could be starting out your day even before you start work. You could be starting out your day having a solid breakfast. You could be starting out your day taking care of yourself in some way, going on a walk outside, reading some of your favorite book. There's many ways that we can choose to start our day. We can choose how we want to feel for the day if we take the time at the beginning of the day to be really intentional about what we are exposing ourselves to, right? So please don't check your email first thing in the morning. Be a little bit more intentional about it. Decide how you want to feel, decide where you want to put your best energy, and focus on your priorities first, okay? All right. Tip number 3 is, if you're not already doing so, start time blocking your email. And there is actually, I've got like 4 different ways that I want to give you for how you could do this. So one thing is that you can decide on a specific time during the day when you're going to first open up your email and check your email, right? So if you're not going to be checking it first thing in the morning, when are you going to check it? Is it going to be 10 a.m.? Is it going to be 11 a.m.? You get to decide, right? Number 2, decide if there are other times during the day when you're going to check your email, and which I'm assuming for most of us, yes, we need to check our email. But here's the deal. When we check our email multiple times a day, like just willy-nilly doing it whenever, just like instinctively, and I would ask you, actually, just sidebar, I would suggest that you observe yourself maybe the next few days, how you're actually checking your email, how many times you're doing it, how many times are you picking up your phone to check work email, how many times are you instinctively going to your email inbox on your computer to check what's going on. How often are you doing it when you get stuck on a project or something and you need a break, so you just go check your email? Okay. These are all what I would say kind of like instinctive reactive ways of checking our email. And when we do that, going back to, this issue of like deciding how we want to spend our energy, we're not being very intentional. We have a limited amount of energy, a limited amount of capacity to get stuff done during the day. So we have to be super intentional about it if we want to cut down on the time we're spending on work and email, and also cut down on stress. So decide when during the day that you're going to check your email. If you need to, plug it into your calendar. Now, I know that we have like meetings and stuff come up every day, so maybe it won't even be the exact time each day, but maybe decide for yourself, you know what, I'm going to check my email 4 times a day. I'm going to check it at 10 a.m., 12 p.m., 1 p.m., and 4 p.m., for instance. Decide ahead of time when you're going to check your email, and when you're not checking your email, don't look at it. Keep it away. Close out your email inbox in your browser, and just, discipline yourself so that you're not checking it at those other times, knowing, that it's going to be okay because I have a time when I'm going to be checking it. Okay. Now, related to that, decide ahead of time how long you will check your email each time you check it. Let's face it, if we go and check our email, we could be sitting there all day checking our email, right? So you need to put on a time limit. And no, you're not going to finish everything in that time limit. So like, let's say you say, I'm going to check email for a half hour. You might not finish everything in that half hour. And that's okay, because you've set aside another time during the day to check your email. Okay, so decide how long you're going to spend dealing with email each of those times when you're going to be dealing with email. And then, related to all of that, decide when you're going to stop checking email at the end of the day, and make it a hard boundary that you do not cross. Okay? we need to, excuse me, if we don't want to have email be taking over our lives, if we don't want to be thinking about or doing work outside of work hours, like if we want to have a life, then we have to set a boundary, first of all, with ourselves that, around when we're going to stop working and stop checking email. So for you, maybe that's 5, maybe it's 6 p.m., whatever it is, decide on it. And something that you can do is, and I should have mentioned this in the beginning, but take work email off of your phone. Remove work email from your phone to just remove that temptation to check it after hours, right? When you close your laptop, don't open it again until the next day, right? So no more email after a certain time point. You have to decide what that time point is based on your schedule, but choose a time and stick to it every single day. Now, to make all of this work, we really want to train your colleagues and your boss to not expect immediate responses to emails and to not expect responses to emails outside of work hours, right? Now, here's the conundrum that I see many people come up against is that if you've been checking your email at, 10 p.m. for quite a long time and responding to emails at night like that for a while, people are going to you've kind of like set an expectation for people that that's when you check emails. So part of the work of setting boundaries for yourself around emails is also going to involve communicating to others that you're not going to be checking emails and to let them know when they can expect a response. There is nothing, and then going back to our beliefs and our mindsets about emails, we are not email checkers. We are not, our job description is not email checker, right? And also, we are in most cases, and it might be a different case for you depending on, the specificities of your job and of your role. But for most of us, there is no reason why we should be required to check email after, from dinner time onwards, let's say. And I know that some of you are going to be saying, no, but here's the deal is I'm coming at this from the perspective of somebody who works with women who are dealing with burnout. And this tends to be one of the things that they do. That is one of the things that's burning them out is thinking about working all the time and actually working all the time. So we need to be looking for easy ways to stop thinking about work so much and stop doing work so much. And one of those ways is cutting down your availability and getting things done in working hours and stopping checking emails after work or before work when you're just getting out of bed so that you can actually live your life. If you want to live your life, if you want to have more work-life balance, this is almost what I would call kind of like the low-hanging fruit. I would put it in that category. And essentially, if this is, when it's making us uncomfortable to not be checking our emails, it might, in your case, I'm not sure what's going on with you personally, but it might involve, like I said, having a conversation and just with your colleagues or with your boss and just letting them know, this is when I'll be able to respond to your email. After a little bit, probably not too long at all, this is going to click and people will stop emailing you at night. Okay? Now, next thing that we need to think about is how you are responding to emails. And what I want to advise you is to be discerning with your responses and be aware or beware of false urgency. So, going back to this whole thing of you're getting a bunch of emails every day and you feel like you are filled with chaos and constantly putting out fires. Here's what I want to say about that. Somebody else's urgent request is not necessarily your emergency. You already know what your priorities are, right? You've already decided. And if you haven't, that is another task. I'm not going to get into it right now, but you need to decide every single day and every single week, what are my priority things that need to get done, right? That is most important. Everything else is down here, and everything else is everybody else's problem, the administrative stuff, the whatever, the responding to emails. I put that mostly in there. Somebody else's, something that is on someone else's to-do list that is urgent, that they urgently need your help with, it doesn't mean that it's your emergency. It doesn't mean that it's your problem to solve. Every fire doesn't need to get put out by you, and it doesn't need to get put out by you immediately, right? Now, unless you are a surgeon and you are literally saving people's lives with your own hands, most of us are not working in a life or death situation, right? So, what does that mean, practically speaking? How do we respond to emails in a way that doesn't send our nervous systems into fight or flight and send us, careening off a cliff and freaking out about things that are really not our priorities? Here's what you do. You get the email. First, you pause. You read it. Maybe you're getting upset. Darn it, I'm going to have to work on this. I'm going to have to respond. I'm going to have to fix this problem. Another thing I have to fix. Crap. All right, stop. Pause. Take a moment to take a few deep breaths. This is what I call nervous system regulation. So you could do this right at your desk, by the way. Stop, pause, remove yourself from the situation and say, all right, for a moment, I'm going to practice breathing. Take in a deep breath through your nose. Exhale it out very slowly. Literally, just one of those breaths, in the middle of filming this video, I feel more relaxed. So just think, if you were to do that, just a couple more breaths of that, you're immediately going to feel more relaxed. When you get to the point when you're more relaxed, go back to the email. Decide how you're going to respond, okay? You don't, just because something is urgent and someone else is freaking out about their problem, you don't have to allow their negative, excited, freaking out energy you don't have to allow that energy to be imparted onto you. You can choose your energetic state. You can choose to be more calm, and you can choose to respond rationally instead of reacting and just believing this as an emergency. Okay. So number 5. Last tip that I have on managing your email more effectively is to practice responding. This is basically what I was just talking about, but a little bit more in depth. We're going to practice responding to emails instead of reacting. And so just to add on to what I was just saying about responding, pausing, regulating your nervous system, calming yourself down and responding to that email. Here's the deal, is that we don't always have to give a detailed response. We don't always have to have the answer to every single problem that comes our way through email. And I want to give you a couple ideas of responses that are, in many cases, absolutely valid. You're not sure about how you want to respond? I'll get back to you tomorrow about this. Or, replace tomorrow with whatever time that you want to give yourself and that you know is going to give you the space and the time to be able to decide how you want to respond, give that response. I'll get back to you tomorrow. I'll get back to you on Friday. I'll go back to you, whatever you want. Just let them know when they can expect a response. The other thing is, it's okay to say, I don't know right now. You don't have to have a yes. You don't have to have a no. You don't have to have the solution right away. It's okay to say, I don't have that answer right now, but I'm going to think on it and I'll get back to you tomorrow, right? We can respond from, based on what is real and what is doable for us. We can, acknowledge our capacity to be able to solve somebody else's problems. And we can give them a truthful response. Now, I want to address, one thing that I think some of that you might be thinking when it comes to all of these things that I am suggesting, which essentially involve setting boundaries for yourself and for others when it comes to checking your email, is you might feel resistance to doing a lot of these things. They might feel scary to you because you've always done it one way and you're afraid of changing because, well, you tell me, why are you afraid of changing? My guess is it's some kind of fear of what might happen, that things are going to fall apart, fear of how people are going to judge you, and that you really like to be liked. There's a lot of fears that can come up when we are changing, even these little behaviors around email. And, just in general, most of us as humans, one of the things that is universally stressful to most humans is the future, that, the unknown nature of the future, of what's going to happen, So it's totally normal, I want to let you know, to feel uncomfortable or to feel resistance to making any of these changes. And that's why it's also really important to practice regulating your nervous system, right? To practice getting yourself into, out of a state of fight or flight and back into a relaxed state in your mind and in your body. It's important to do that in general, but also I think that it's really useful when you're practicing setting a boundary or writing an email or whatever, to notice when those feelings of discomfort or stress come up in your body, to acknowledge them, to say to yourself, it's normal, I'm going out of my comfort zone. It's normal that I would feel this way, and it's okay. And I'm going to now take a few deep breaths to regulate my nervous system and get out of fight or flight. Okay. Obviously, there's other things we could talk about besides taking a few deep breaths, but this is a really easy one, and it's why I keep suggesting it. This is something that I often work on my clients, figuring out the specific boundaries around email to set. Sometimes we will brainstorm, like if it comes around to, how do we communicate to our boss or colleagues about her new boundaries. We'll brainstorm and strategize ways to figure that out. We'll brainstorm and strategize things like what time to start checking emails and what's going to feel good and what the pros and cons will be. It can be really helpful to have somebody to bounce ideas about this back and forth, and get some, accountability and support in making these changes, because even though they might sound kind of small, email, they can feel really big, right? I know that they can. So if that's feeling big to you, totally normal. But I promise you, you can do this. You can work through this. And I promise you, if this is something that is, like I said, like a thorn in your side, email, if you can learn to master it, change how you're approaching it, change how you're thinking about it, set some boundaries around it, this can be a real game changer. It can it can help you slice hours of work from your life each week hours that you can spend actually living your life and doing things that give you meaning and give you joy, or just giving you more time and more of your best energy back into the workday to do the things that are most important to you. So if you found this video useful, please hit like and subscribe, and check out the description where I've got a link to a free burnout recovery guide, and also a link to a way to get in touch with me and learn about how I can help you implement a lot of the tips I was talking about in this video to help you get control over your inbox, get control over your workday, and ultimately set you on the path to a burnout-free life. So thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you soon.